If you like these videos, please check out my full course at www.lsat.totaltestprep.net with tons of clearly explained actual LSAT questions written by someone who's mastered test and helped others master it, and an evaluation period where you only pay if you want to continue. Alright, so in this video we'll do an overview of the game's fundamentals. So, what are the essential building blocks of logic games? So first, what are the logic games? What are the fundamental elements of a game? How do we approach them? And rather, what are the fundamental elements and how do we approach them? So, looking at the basic information, we've got here on the right a simplified version of a typical game. We see that it says that runners A, B, C, D, and E win places 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a race, and not necessarily in that order. Then it says that runner B is before runner A, runners C and D cannot go in third place. And then we have a question here. If A is fourth, where can you put B? So this is the simplified version of what you'll encounter on the test. So how can we describe this? Well, essentially, we can think of it as a situation with a bunch of different people taking part in that situation. So it's essentially, or more generally, more abstractly, it's essentially a scenario with certain actors or certain players. And by actors and players, I don't necessarily mean people. In this case, there are people, but it could also be, objects or animals, etc. But it's a scenario with actors and players. And then the statements below the scenario, so what I have here, what I have in that second paragraph, the rules here, runner B is before runner A and all that. The statements below the scenario give you the rules how these players interact. We've got the players up there, which is the runners and the places and all that. And then we've got the rules that tell you how these players interact. The questions are going to ask about the different interactions between those players. So for example, what we have here is we're told, well, if we know that A is fourth, where are you going to put B? So that depends on the interactions between A and B and the places that they can go. And this is essentially what it's going to be. Each game section is going to have 4 of these games and 5 to 7 of these questions. So this is basically what these 3 elements are essentially what's going on. You've got the scenario, you've got the rules, and then you've got the questions that follow that. Okay. Now, looking at it in a little more detail, there's something that's called the movable set. So we see what I've got highlighted here. The runners A, B, C, and D. And the letters A, B, C, and D are the runners in the game. And what you can think of them as a group or a set of players or a set of elements. And an element is one of the fundamental building blocks of a game. So this is what I mean by sort of actors and players more abstractly. It's just an element. Think of you're combining a bunch of things in different ways in some sense, or you're looking at the interactions between a bunch of things. I call those things the elements. Now, A, B, C, D, and E, all we know so far is that they're just a group of runners. We don't know anything else. We don't know anything else about them, nor do we know how to visualize them or how to work with them. We just know that we've got this group of runners. There's no structure, and we can move them around in different ways in different positions. So they're just a jumble at this point. So here, for example, I visually represented, if we draw out the A, B, C, and D, we don't know exactly how and where to draw them out and all that. And that's just a visualization of the fact that you've got this group that you're working with. This set that has elements that can be moved around in different ways is found in every game. And this is what I mean by movable set. Because at this point, we've just got a bunch of runners. In every single game, regardless of the content and regardless of what the game is all about, you'll always find a set where the elements can be moved around different ways. So you read through it, you go through the scenario, and you'll be able to identify that there is a set, I call set, but a group or a collection of things that you can move around in different ways. You can visualize as being in some sort of jumble. And this is called the movable set, or the set of movable elements.